dog breeding questions and answers. And we got my good friend here, Tori. She's actually becoming a vet. We're going to answer all the questions A through Z on dog breeding that you guys have been asking. Stay tuned. I don't think you're going to want to miss this episode of Breeders' Hacks because we might just answer your question. All right, stay tuned, guys.
I got you right now. What's going on, Bully fam?
Dog breeding questions and answers. So we got my good friend here, Tori, Ally Bully Squad. She's actually studying to become a vet. You know, it's your boy, the educated, the scientist, Mr. Dog Muscle Line Bulls. So we haven't done an episode like this. I haven't done an episode like this in a long time. I've never done one with Tori before. So I think it's really cool. We're going to answer all your questions, well, as many as we could get through. And she's going to give her perspective as, you know, studying to become a vet. And I'm going to give my perspective as a breeder who's just, you know, been dog breeding for the past decade. She's also a breeder as well. So it's going to be cool to get our perspectives on y'all questions. So let's get started, all right? So the first question comes from Johnson's Poodles Doodles 8489. And this was on the episode talking about progesterone testing, right? So his question is, my female has been at 2.6 for 4 to 5 days. Any advice? Because she's also had no blood. What are your thoughts?
Split heat. I mean,
you're right. That could be a split heat, right? He's saying his dog has been in heat for 4 or 5 days though. So it is.
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah.
Usually it's like 14 to 7, you know, you start to see it's still low, but I mean, I would keep testing. That's really early to be honest. There's some of them level out and then some of them spike. So
I feel like
every female's different.
4 to 5 days.
It's really early.
You know, it also depends on what machine you're testing on. Are you testing on an IDEX machine or are you testing on a Wanfo machine? I feel like for a 2.6 at 4 to 5 days in heat,
4 to 5 days
that's
in heat,
kind of early normal.
Or 4 to 5 days in heat, or for staying at.
He said the female has been at 2.6 for 4 to 5 days.
So we don't know what day. If it is at day 4 to 5, that's perfect. They're gonna be fine.
But we don't. So it could be.
But still, if you're stationary at that, doesn't really mean it. Testing.
You know what?
They level out.
I think he's gonna have to elaborate more on his question. But what I will say is the dog also has had no blood. Dogs are known to pool. You know, they can retain blood in their uterus, which is known as hematometra. So that could be a possibility why she's not bleeding, or she's bleeding and she's just looking it up really quickly and nobody's noticing.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that happen plenty of times. So hopefully, if there was more to the question, I would elaborate more. So that's John Poodles and Doodles 8489.
All right, question number 2 from Rich Helifair-HY5IK. Will a female pooling in heat pool every heat?
So oftentimes, like at least from my perspective, like when it comes to the dogs pooling blood, it's usually because of how the uterus is formed. They say that a large portion of it is based off of the pelvic tilt. But regardless, what I find is that I guess because of how the uterus is formed, and how basically the blood drips downwards into this pocket that doesn't allow it to completely drain out of the dog. It's how the dog is formed. So usually she's going to have it every heat.
I would say 95%.
Yeah, I would say it's like every heat she's usually going to have it.
It's an internally structured thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's how the dog...
Something happens.
Yep, it's the dog's hips. That's why you usually see it in like the exotic breeds like Frenchies, English Bulldogs, things like that.
When you're trying to get that small. Yeah,
it's because how their hips are formed. Their hips aren't really formed the best. So that's why you see a lot of dogs pool blood. But I have seen other breeds of dogs pooling blood. Like I said, I think that it could just be, you know, how it's formed, how that dog maybe is just formed for that particular dog. Or there could be a pelvic tilt thing going on. But regardless, I'm going too far into it. I just think, like you said, probably 95% of the time they're gonna have it again.
Yeah, I would say.
That's what I would do.
Out of how many do you think they are successful litters? Are able to...
I see what you're saying. How many dogs that pool actually get pregnant? I think a large portion do.
Yeah.
I think a large portion do because you can easily bypass that by surgical. I think you could bypass it by TC.
Then if it doesn't come out though, isn't that an issue? Like say you do a surgical, you don't know.
I think it can become an issue. I think that's why a lot of dogs get like pyometra, because I think the dog gives it to herself. That blood is sitting right there in front of the cervix, and then it can make its way back in and it breeds for infection, bacteria, and so on and so forth. So, and pooling blood and hematometra is a fairly new thing that a lot of vets don't know about. So like I have one of the books somewhere around here about the endocrinology Blackwell's of reproduction. And I think a large portion do get pregnant. Some dogs don't pool a lot.
Depending on how severe
the
tilt is or something
like
like that.
Exactly. So if there's just a very, 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 very small amount of blood, and then you're you're like, say maybe there's like 1 or 2 cc's of blood in this particular dog, and then you're dumping like 10 cc's of semen, even if, you know, a certain amount necessarily it becomes compromised because of the blood or whatever, you still have plenty that most likely gonna get in there. So I think a large portion do get pregnant, but I also think that if you took the portion of dogs that have, and this is just my theory, a large portion of dogs that do pool, I think a large portion of the dogs that get pyometra are dogs that pool whether the owner knew it
or not.
you know, that's just my theory. Yeah. Next question. So the next question is by Ray-S8U. My French Bulldog is in the early stage of pregnancy. Skin is giving us problems. What would you recommend for skincare while pregnant?
Well, a lot of skin issues. There's different things for skin issues, but it's like hot spots. Maybe it's the food allergy. Maybe it's environmental. Obviously, there's so many things. Could even be that the immune system is low because of the puppies, so could be exposing everything else. But, you know, try switching the protein of the food, I would say, because that's not going to harm anything. She might have like a little bit of diarrhea, but that's not going to harm anything. And I would say MTG oil on the skin.
MTG oil's good. Even coconut oil.
Even if it's something that's like fungal, do a, you know, bath, but a soap, that's not gonna hurt either. So there's so many different things that can go, but yeah.
I agree. I believe when it comes to the skin problems, it depends on how severe it is. You know, these are all things that you got to take into consideration. If it's a really, really bad skin condition, you know, then at that point, you may want to just go straight to your vet, you know, don't listen to us on YouTube. But in all seriousness, like, you know, if it's a mild condition or something manageable, you know, like she said, the dog's itching a lot, scratching a lot, it could be an allergy, it could be a protein thing. I mean, I have a female that, and I just found this out, she's allergic to freshly cut grass. Anytime, literally, I freshly cut the grass, she starts breaking out like crazy. And what I've learned with the allergies is like, it's a process of elimination kind of thing, you know? So it could be allergies, like we said. It also could be demodectic mange. It could be, I mean, there's so many different skin. There's so many different skin. Like literally, I have a book this thick, probably as thick as these 2 books combined on just literally skin problems because there's so many different ones for dogs. So I think the first thing I would do is ensure that the dog isn't itching anymore. I would try to alleviate the itching. Try to do something temporarily now, like, I don't know, like coconut oils and giving her some fish oils. And,
find a little relief.
Try to give her a little bit of relief and eliminate that. If she doesn't have an itch, then it may not be an allergy. So that's one of the first things I'd be doing. And then the other thing is I would try to be treating whatever the skin condition is internally and externally, no matter what the condition is. So there's certain things that you can give, like, you know, antibiotics and stuff like that. It really, like I said, it's skin, it gets crazy. With the skin, it gets really crazy. You could try some topical stuff, MTG, there's mane and tail, but with skin, it just, there's so many different things. It's hard for me to just narrow it down to one thing. For me, it's more of a process of elimination. So I'm looking first to see if the dog, if it's an allergy, or if it's, like you said, if it's something fungal, or is it some type of maybe like bacteria or infection. Those are usually, I think, going to be your main 3 things. It's either an allergy, fungal, or some type of bacteria and infection. So the first thing is identifying what it is. Once you identify what it is, then you can go through process of elimination of treating it.
What to do.
So for allergy, it's simply, like she said, eliminating things in the diet that's causing the allergy, and it'll slowly resolve itself.
Do the at-home allergy test.
At-home allergy test, all post-testing. Then for, if it's like a fungal type of thing, with that, you're going to want to use more,
but it's
tough to pregnant. Exactly. So the fungal thing is a little bit, is a little bit different. That one, I would say, for someone who's never dealt with it before, maybe you do want to kind of lean more on your vet for that one. And then when it comes to bacteria or infections, you're going to need to put the dog on an antibiotic. But you wouldn't you wouldn't put the dog on an antibiotic if the dog just has an allergy, and you wouldn't put the dog on antifungals if the dog has, say, you know, just an infection or an allergy. So there's different treatments for each thing. So you need to take the time to identify, what it is first. And then you can go from there. So I know that's a loaded answer, but I would only be setting you up for failure if I didn't make you aware of those things.
All right. Next question. Michael Henry GD7IH. What about heartworm and flea and ticks?
Okay, so I know what episode they're talking about. They're talking about the deworming episode. So as I said, heartworm and flea and ticks, all right? So for heartworm, and I think I have a bottle somewhere here. I'm going to just grab it anyway. So Ivermectin, right? I like straight up ivermectin from your Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
And literally, this is the active ingredient in heartworm medicine. So go look at your heart guard and look at what the active ingredient is, and it's ivermectin. Now, the key thing to be mindful of when you're talking about heartworm prevention is with ivermectin, any dogs that have, it's like a genetic mutation that causes them to be highly, I think like allergic, or it can be really like fatal to them. Like it's like a handful of breeds. Like I think it's like Australian Shepherds and like a couple of breeds. So you have to be careful. Do your homework and find out if your breed is known to be, to have that mutation that causes them not to be able to take ivermectin, or if they can, it's at a very, very, very low dose. But for general people who are in my breed, like the American Bullies, French Bulldogs, English Bulldogs, you shouldn't have to worry about that at all. So ivermectin, that's what we do for heartworm. And honestly, I don't even give it to my dogs all year round, because once a certain temperature hits, I forget the exact temperature off the top of my head, but once it reaches a certain temperature, especially like in the fall,
Yeah.
the heartworm can't even be transferred from mosquito to animal anyway. So
Things are dying. They're not even out.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I only give it to them generally like in the spring and in the summer, but that's because we're here on the upper East Coast. For places where it's hot all year round, you're gonna want to give it to them all year round.
Of course.
And you just give a very, very, very eyedropper amount on the tongue, and that's really it. So ivermectin for heartworm, and I've done an episode on this. And then
Flea
tick. There's a few different tips for flea and tick. You can do, and it depends on how bad it is. If you're dealing with like an infestation, or if you're dealing with just a preventative. So if it's a infestation, if the dog already has the fleas, you want to kill it from the outside and you want to kill it from the inside. So what I would try to give is something orally that kills like the eggs, like a Brevetto or something like that. You may have to get that from your vet, but that's known to like, there's another one too, but something that like kills it, usually like the eggs. And then you want to get something that you can kill topically, which would be like, you could throw like some Dawn dish soap, and that removes them, as well as then applying afterwards like a front line, or they sell the collars or something like that. And basically you're disrupting the life cycle of the fleas. So now the fleas and ticks, so that then now they can't multiply, and essentially, they die off because they can't survive on the dog.
Exactly.
So that's me. What about you?
Yeah, do the same thing. For fleas and ticks, I usually do the Prevecto, and your collars are really beneficial, to be honest. Don't give them all year round, obviously, and ivermectin.
Yeah, and there was an old, like, this country breeder, that what he taught me, and I have it somewhere here, but I'm saving it for an episode, is actually, he was like, if you got to worry about fleas, ticks, flies, he said you can use what we used to use is just cow tags, which is literally, I mean, it's the thing that clips to the cow's ear, and it keeps the flies and the fleas and all that stuff off the cow. Now, they can be toxic to dogs, so I'm not saying you should do it, but if you do, like what they would do, I'm just telling you what they would do. What they would do is they would clip it to the dog's collar, and the dog would be wearing around the cow tag, and it kept the flies and all stuff off the dog. But like I said, if you have a dog that's notorious for tearing stuff off of itself, then that's probably a bad idea.
Depends on where you live, I would say that.
I didn't say you should do it. I'm just saying that's what they did.
Yeah.
So don't sue me. I'm not a vet. All right. So I guess next question, right? So I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but Ashia, Ashia Samuels 6447 said, "Is it bad that I didn't give my dogs prenatals?" So I guess the real question is, should you be giving your dogs prenatals? I'll let her start.
So, my parents have been breeding for 20 years. We just went over this off camera. My dad never gave prenatals to our dogs, but I recently came across someone that we were going back and forth with, and they said to me, "Do you ever see a pregnant woman not taking prenatals?" And I said, no, usually they always take prenatals. Every vitamin is being drawn to the baby, and they, the mom needs more. And they said, so then why not the dog? The same thing's going on with the dog. And it made me kind of maybe not switch my mind, but made me think like maybe I need to find a good prenatal, because not every single one you should just be like, oh, I'm going to use that one. You need to go through the ingredients and see what your dog should have and kind of what they shouldn't. Not all of them are great. So that made me kind of on the fence sense now of maybe going to every dog needs a prenatal.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, and I share this story with people is that I know firsthand this happened to a person close to me that they were pregnant, having a child, and literally the child was depleting them. And this was a person who wasn't really taking the prenatals they were supposed to, even though they recommended prenatals. And actually their teeth started to rot.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
teeth started to
Happens
decay
so
because of the
mhm.
fact that the baby was depleting,
Yeah.
the body. So if that can happen, we're all mammals, is what I've learned. So if that can happen with a human, I think that can very easily happen with a dog.
And you would
think-
probably never know with your dog. If
Yeah.
the teeth were, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you should be examining your dog, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
if it was doing something weird, you'd never be like, oh my God, that's a tooth problem. But really, it's,
Yeah, it's
it
true.
has, yeah,
I agree. And I just
it's
think
not eating or something.
and,
Then,
and some people will claim, that, hey, I shouldn't have to give my dogs prenatals or whatever
yeah.
the case may be.
Uh-huh.
And I agree. If you're giving your dog the perfect diet, then I don't,
Active.
then maybe
That's a
that's
whole different,
a whole
Huh?
different discussion. But if you're
But
giving
seriously,
your
yeah.
dog, a kibble diet, if you're giving your dog not the best diet, which I'm not somebody to judge because at the same time, humans don't eat the best themselves either. So the point of the prenatal is just to give a little bit of supplementation, any of those
Yeah.
little minor things that the dog may additionally need in order to make sure that the fetuses come out as healthy as possible with as minimal defects as possible, as well as keeping the mother nice and healthy and having a nice, happy, healthy, full-term pregnancy. So I think, personally me, I think it can do nothing but
I
help.
totally agree.
So, and I stress people not to wait until they confirm the dog is pregnant. I usually
Oh yeah.
I
A
usually
lot
tell
of
them
people mistake
start
that
right away.
when to do prenatals. Yeah.
So that's just
That's
my 2
another thing,
cents.
yeah.
Mhm.
People don't know when to start them or they start them too late and whatever
Exactly.
happened already happened. Next question by Amanda Kelgley. I have 2 puppies that were born about 12 hours ago and haven't pooped yet. They have peed when I've stimulated them, but no poop.
12 hours ago they were
Yep.
So what I'm gonna say is what I would do, and actually my mentor Chris Moore does this regardless, actually, which I find kind of interesting.
Oh, I saw that the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're first born, they have that marconium, which is a real tarry kind of poop that you want to get that out
Yeah.
because
Has to, yeah,
it'll
yeah.
just cause them to naturally get constipated.
Yep.
So in my opinion, like what I would do is I would give them enemas. So I would take, in this particular situation, I probably just I prefer mineral oil. So I take mineral oil, which is it's a laxative. So
Really well, to be honest.
yeah,
Like I'm saying for dogs,
yep.
that's
And people can use it too.
Yeah.
It's
but yeah,
it's
for our
for humans. So you can go to CVS and I would do like, I think the veterinary drug handbook says 1 cc every 15 minutes to half hour
Okay.
until the puppy goes.
Okay.
So you're basically just gonna keep doing like 1 cc until puppy just
Yeah.
shoots up.
Huh?
You know?
He said he did soapy dishwater.
Yeah,
He did like
he
soap
does.
with
Yeah,
water. Yeah.
he did soapy dishwater.
Yeah.
But they both
Where
work
I
the
would,
same,
yeah, the mineral oil thing. Yeah.
whichever you
But-
prefer.
12 hours is a little long. I would say usually within the first feeding, after the first like feeding, I try to get my pets to go to the bathroom.
So they're already possibly constipated.
Yeah.
Like you would have to work.
That's already
Right.
how many at least 6 feedings every 2 hours, maybe even more than that.
Yep, exactly.
So depending on how much they're getting, obviously some don't get a lot, but the first,
Yeah,
because of the
100%. And you
milk's
could
not in, but
probably even give like a little dab of pumpkin,
yeah,
you could throw that into, and that just helps with their digestion,
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, that's what I would think of.
yeah, the same.
Cool. All right. So this one is by OG Mastimos 7751. If I said that, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I butchered the name. 61 days is a good day to do a C-section, or should I do a reverse progesterone? My English bulldog is at a 61 days, but she's not showing any signs of labor. What do you got for me?
Always do reverse progesterone, but some people count days differently. I always count from ovulation. So like some people count from whatever.
Yeah.
Some people counting them wrong, and you don't want to cut too early. Take temperature, do a reverse progesterone. If the numbers are telling you, your puppies will be fine. Then if the numbers are telling you, because the body's naturally going into labor soon. So I would always do that and take temperature. If the temperature, is right, then it's gonna happen within 12 to 24 hours. So
You heard it here first.
Science,
Yeah, consider, and I
always
exactly what I would have said.
Yeah.
Exactly what I would have said. Temperature. I take your temperature in the morning and the evening. I'd be doing a reverse progesterone. I'd be monitoring if she's eating it within the past 24
Never.
hours.
Sometimes
Is
some
that
females
true?
don't, but
Yep,
different.
those are all the signs I look for. But
Yeah.
regardless, I'm always taking her temperature and reverse progesterone. Those are
Yeah.
the 2 most important things. So yeah, she hit the nail on the head on that one, in my opinion.
Okay, so a question from Michelle Perez Vasquez, 7760. I live in Florida. Can I have semen shipped to me from Puerto Rico?
Yeah, you most certainly can. You can have semen shipped if it's done the right way, you can have semen shipped from anywhere all over the world. And to a degree, timing may or may not matter. I mean, if you're doing, there's two ways to ship semen. There's shipping it chilled, which the lifespan on that can be anywhere between like 5 to 10 days. And then there's shipping frozen, which is a much more complicated system and way to go about it. You're essentially freezing the semen with liquid nitrogen, and then you're putting it in a shipping container of liquid nitrogen, and you'd be shipping that anywhere all over the world. I mean, you could ship liquid nitrogen from California all the way to Australia,
Yep.
all the way to Russia. I mean, anywhere all over the world, as long as the country, I guess, allows you to. But yeah, it all depends on how it's being shipped. Now,
Most of the time you're doing
Yeah.
it chilled. Yeah.
yeah, most of the time you're doing it chilled though. So it's where they're gonna put it in a box. It's gonna go with some ice, and it's generally gonna last for 5 to 10 days. A lot of things are factors: the type of extender that's being used, the stud, how his sperm is, and things like that. If it's good quality or if it's very, very weak. All these things are gonna play a factor in how long the sperm will last for in that box when you're shipping it. But generally, if they send it overnight, especially here in the United States, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. You should have it the next day, and it should perfect.
Morning again or doorstep.
Yeah, that's what I think. Hey, what about you? Any
Yeah, you can
thoughts?
ship wherever you want. We're in New York, so I've done Florida, California, and it's gotten
So,
safely.
there, right?
Yeah, great breedings came out of it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, most definitely, I wouldn't be skeptical at all unless maybe there was something that was a little concerning, like from the stud owner, like maybe something seemed shady. But for the most part, yeah, you could ship semen anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not a problem at all. So, all right. So anyway, guys, I think that's generally it for the questions. If you guys want to see a part 2, drop a comment down below. Let us know. Let us know what you guys
yeah,
think.
let us know.
We hope this information is helpful. We hope it's useful. Make sure you follow my friend Tori. Like I said, she's becoming a vet. She's eventually going to be my vet. She doesn't know it yet. So tell them how they can find you, Tori.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, li_bully squad.
All right, guys. So until next time, I hope the information is helpful. I hope it's useful. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of Breeders' Hacks. All right, guys.